Thank you and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Legion and I am the chairperson of Circular Business Association. Now, I really wanted to start today's session by asking how many of you would like to make a part of $1 trillion while being able to sleep with peace at night? And how many of you would like to wake up every day knowing that all that time you spent at work made this world a better place for you, your family, your community, without compromising your livelihood or the planet that we live in? Hello and welcome to this webinar titled Environmental Social Governance, Business Advantage or Threat. Now, I believe this topic captures a real love-hate relationship that's going on with ESG nowadays in the business community. And thank you so much for those of you who already answered those two questions in your mind. Because the clashing between wanting to do more and sort of like, being expected to do more and what is morally right seems to be in conflict with this interest to grow the business and make profits, which is very much a source of livelihoods. But these are not in conflict with each other. And I'm very much looking forward to the discussion today with our new MOU partners in order to share with you all this idea about ESG being a business advantage and really looking at how we can reduce it at becoming the ESG business threat. So my name is Legion. I'm the co-founding chairperson of Circular Business Association, which is essentially an ecosystem builder that aims to solve the climate crisis and create a livable world by accelerating business transition into a profitable circular economy. I'm really happy to have you here with us today to celebrate two new partnerships from whom our association has signed a memorandum of understanding with. But before I introduce them, please allow me to introduce myself. And while I'm doing that, I would love to actually know where you're calling in from today. So drop it in the chat, where you're calling in, which country you're calling from. I'm actually calling in from the United Kingdom, even though our association is registered in Malaysia, because despite being registered in Malaysia, we're actually working very much globally with suppliers, vendors, and talents across the world. Now, apart from leading Circular Business Association, I am the lead trainer for the ESG-ready certification program and also the podcast host for our Circular Insights business podcast, available on Spotify and YouTube. Now, this is built on my credentials as a IFRS FSA qualification. So I actually am a credential holder for sustainability financial reporting. I have a master's degree in environmental economics from Cranfield University in the UK, as well as being a Chevening Scholar. I have a science degree in environmental management, mainly trained in ecology. And I was also chosen as one of the jury members for the Circular Economy Awards in 2024 and 2025, mainly looking into circular economy businesses in the Gulf cooperating countries. Now, prior to focusing on the association, I had more than 12 years experience of working in research and management consulting and was very much part of helping national governments, state governments, and local governments, as well as multilateral organizations like the United Nations Development Program in moving towards sustainability programs, policies, and even looking at various regulatory frameworks. I was very lucky to actually be part of the team that was writing the final Millennium Development Goals report for Malaysia in 2015, and also the first voluntary national review for the Sustainable Development Goals and the first Sustainable Development Goals roadmap for our nation back in 2016. Apart from that, despite being a non-legal sort of background, I actually was invited by the Bar Council of Malaysia to actually curate, co-found, and moderate a discussion called the Bar Chats Enviro Rights webinar series. Now, today I'm very happy to first introduce our first MOU partner. MOU stands for Memorandum of Understanding. So we're very happy to have Greenlyf Foundation, which is an indigenous NGO that focuses on climate action, climate capacity building, and green jobs through partnerships with universities, civil society, and private sector, aimed at strengthening climate resilience for indigenous and vulnerable communities, mainly based in Uganda. Very welcome to Mr. Samuel Kusasira, who is the founder of the Greenlyf Foundation. So welcome, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you so much, Regine. I'm happy to be on the call and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know Mr. Samuel is, apart from being the founder of the foundation, he's also a lecturer at Makerere University Business School in Uganda. He is a PhD candidate for energy economics and governance at Makerere University. He's also the co-author of the 2025 GPEI Climate Spotlight and currently supports Uganda in the preparation for their national climate disclosures, the National Declaration of Climate Goals, NDC 3.0, and also works alongside other national experts for the Climate Compatible Growth UK. Previously, Mr. Samuel also worked at the Save the Children International as the Global Climate Program Coordinator and is a member of the International Association for Energy Economics in the US. Now, the second partner that I'd really love to introduce to you all is the ESG Association of Malaysia, ESGAM. ESGAM is an association that originates from the experiences of professionals coming from business, academic, financial, and legal world, and the third sector, which is very much in need in aiding Malaysia to contribute to its transition to sustainability. ESGAM aspires to be the catalyst, facilitator, and enabler of ESG adoption and development in Malaysia, delivering the Sustainable Development Goals call to action and plan adopted by the United Nations. So I'm very happy to have with me today adjunct practice professor Chia Kok Hong, who is the president of ESGAM. Welcome, Prof. Chia, to today's webinar. Now, those of you who may not know Prof. Chia, he's actually a visionary executive.
Yes.
Yeah, good to hear you.
Go on.
Yeah. So Prof. Chia is a visionary
okay. Hello,
executive.
Everyone.
Prof. Chia is a visionary executive and ESG pioneer with over 30 years of leadership in digital transformation, venture capital, and cross-sector collaboration. He currently serves as the executive chairman of SteerQuest, CEO of Cognitive Digital, and chairman of SQV International, leading ESG and digital economy initiatives across ASEAN. Prof. Chia is also frequently sought after for national policy input and cross-border ESG initiatives while serving as an adjunct practice professor at Sunway University. Apart from that, he also has had various alliances in the past, including with PICOM, the National Tech Association of Malaysia, as advisor and past chairman, the SME Association of Malaysia as a national council member and bureau chairman, Malaysia China Business Council, a member of and technology committee, as well as the academic institutions of Sunway University, Help University, Methodist College KL, among other various alliances. So really happy to have you here, Prof. Chia. Now, I'm going to probably start off first with asking, what are your thoughts, Prof. Chia, as well as Mr. Samuel, about this topic that we've coined here today, ESG, business advantage or threat? Maybe we can start with Prof. Chia. Yep, Prof. Chia, if you can kindly unmute yourself.
Oh, yes, okay. Just a moment. Can we start from Samuel first? Sorry, yeah.
That would be fine.
Settle something here.
Sure. Hi, Mr. Samuel.
Yeah, thank you so much, Regine and Professor Chat, for having us gather here, really discussing a very pertinent issue. When we think about ESG, we think about many businesses look at it as a way of derailing business, making business more costly by observing environmental conservation as one of the precursor adding an addition element of auditing that is required. People look at it as an environmental impact assessment requirement that needs to be done by a manufacturing company that wants to establish a factory in a particular area. They look at it as an extra cost to do business, especially when there's a new project of investment. You want to look at that as a cost. So many business people are not really very well acquainted with what ESG comes along, especially to their advantage. And in a country where I sit, majority of the businesses are struggling to even understand ESG beyond the corporate social responsibility. So some people look at it as corporate social responsibility, which is CSR, and they feel like so long as I do some part of the activities to benefit the community, then maybe that is what ESG means. So if I am to think about the entire discussion of ESG as an advantage or a threat, majority of our businesses in the area where I sit, they are actually looking at it as a complicated, complex threat that they don't know how to deal with until when this is demystified and we have the professionals that can be able to equip many of the businesses. Currently, banks are actually taking advantage of ESG, especially within Uganda. Banks are actually trying to pilot ESG within their operation because it's a requirement by their funders, the shareholders who are multilateral, that actually are giving towards these banks. However, in the general perspective, the local companies, the local manufacturers, are actually yet to understand ESG fully. And I think this is going to be an opportunity to demystify that notion, the threat that actually people are thinking, and turn it into an opportunity that can eventually become a business advantage. So in a nutshell, ESG as is actually an advantage that is yet to be tapped by the business community, and rather the complexity due to the lack of understanding of how ESG operates could easily become a threat to businesses. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Samuel, for that sort of remarks that set the context really for the discussion today. I think what you mentioned there about how businesses perceive ESG is a very important part, because at the end of the day, what we do about ESG is going to be the thing that determines if it's going to materialize or become real as a threat or become real as an opportunity or advantage to the business. So thanks very much, Samuel, for that. How about Prof. Chia? Would there have anything that you would like to chip in? If not, I think there might be some.
Prof.
Chia, go ahead.
Chip in. Okay. Thank you, Li Jin. Thank you, Samuel. I think first and foremost, we need to understand the context of ESG. A little bit on the background for ESG, most of us understood, I assume. It's launched in 2004 by United Nations. All started with a book called Who Can Wins.
Prof. Chia, I'm afraid we can't get you clearly because the line still seems to be unstable on your end. So I might have to actually circle back to you later on, and hopefully by then your line would have recovered. Yes, I'm very sorry. To all the participants who are actually tuning in, this is not a pre-recorded webinar. We are doing it live. And unfortunately, technology sometimes just play a little trick on us. So I think with that, maybe we can start off first with getting into the topic proper, and then we'll circle back when we do our moderated panel sharing so that we can hear deeper about what Greenlyf and also ESGAM and Circular Business Association is actually pursuing, both individually or respectively, but also together as partners to try and increase the amount of ESG adoption. Now, I think I would love to start off with this conversation about this topic, ESG business advantage or threat, because very often when we look at ESG, as Mr. Samuel rightly pointed, there's always going to be this question, is it something that we really have to deal with? Is it just more cost? And I really like this Chinese characters actually that's called 危机, which means crisis. But when you separate out the two words, it actually means 危, which is risk, and 机, which is opportunity. So before we actually delve into that topic of is it a threat or is it advantage, I really wanted to highlight what was the opportunity that's out there in terms of ESG. Now, when we look at the statistics that's been coming out, the global ESG and sustainability consulting market is already at $9.4 billion as of 2023, and it's actually set to reach $16 billion by 2027. In terms of just the climate tech market alone, which is the technology part of the solutions, it was already valued at $20.34 billion in 2023, which was up 22%. That's double-digit growth since 2022. And when we look even deeper into the circular economy, this has been coined as a 4.1 trillion euro market value between now and 2030, which is like just what for another 5 more years to go. And when we start looking into the ESG investing market size, the projections is reaching 167 trillion by 2034, which is actually not that far away. So the opportunity in ESG is huge, right? The question, though, is how do we actually get there? But before we can really get there, I think it's necessary to first understand how ESG, sustainability, climate action, the SDGs, circular economy, all of these jargons actually fit in with each other. Because for a lot of businesses, these jargons are actually very confusing. And are we actually moving in the same direction? Are we trying to achieve the same thing? Or et cetera, et cetera. So I thought I'd put in this slide to give a very quick overview of what is it that we're trying to achieve when we're pursuing ESG. Now, as you can see in this picture here, there's actually a silent E in ESG that's also very important because it's not only about the environment, it's not only about the social, which is the people part of the work that businesses impact. It's not only about governance and compliance. There's also this need to talk about how businesses actually sustain themselves, and that is in the economy pillar. Now, as Prof. Chen started to explain to us, this terminology ESG really started with this report that came out from the United Nations about who cares wins. But what is ESG actually for? Now, at the end of the day, I believe the simplest form of explaining this is that we're just trying to make sure we get to some form of sustainability. And what does sustainability mean? It means, in the textbook way, that we're meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generations to meet their own needs. Oh, that's just like so many words of needs, right? Which is kind of confusing. So in the simplest way, I'd like to say sustainability is essentially trying to make sure that the human species can continue to survive and thrive. And we are part of an ecosystem. So unfortunately, we cannot survive and thrive without anything else in this planet. Now, what survive and thrive actually means is actually very vague. So therefore, the Sustainable Development Goals does a really good job in terms of having 169 targets and 290 over indicators to try and explain to us how the world sees surviving and thriving looks like, okay? So by doing that, we essentially are trying to overcome these various challenges in terms of planet, people, prosperity, peace, and partnership. And climate action is just one of the many aspects that ESG has to deal with. Now, circular economy then comes in as a very important pathway for us to actually achieve the how, because, I mean, some people can say you can get to a sustainability by having half the world's population disappear. How? I don't want to explain how. Maybe that's going to be very dangerous line of thinking. So therefore, if that is not going to be the way we want to achieve sustainability, we need to find another way, which is the circular economy presenting a much better approach to say, intentionally building in more good stuff while minimizing a lot of the bad stuff through redesigning how we make and use products. It's also how we actually exchange values between people and how we achieve performance in our day-to-day lives. So with that, I'd like to actually share with some of you all, share something with you all about the key developments that's happened in the ESG realm, which I like to call the external forces, right? Because when we're looking at opportunity as well as risk, there's always going to be something outside, right? That is making this dangerous for us or making this a good thing for us. So what are these external forces that businesses definitely cannot miss when they are trying to understand ESG and the relationship that they have with ESG, right? The first one that you definitely do not want to miss as a business is this development in the mandatory sustainability reporting space. Okay, so in the past, everything was like voluntarily report, voluntarily say, oh, maybe we tree planted here, we supported some communities here, we gave scholarships there, we donated to charity, etc. And companies that decided to report more in terms of how all these environment or social related things were involved in their business operations was very much voluntary. But since last year, 2024, we saw an explosion of countries that began adopting mandatory reporting self-guidances. We started, of course, in 2023 already seeing that the European Union are already going that direction with their corporate sustainability reporting directives actually coming into play. Then China also started to introduced their Chinese sustainability disclosure standards as of last year, May. And then Japan also announced it. Singapore also announced it. And not only announced it for public listed companies, they were saying that even large non-listed companies would be targeted as well. The same thing in Malaysia. And as you can see, the timelines that have been put forward for businesses to comply with mandatory sustainability reporting is actually pretty short, right? It's going to happen in the next 5 years' time. And you might think 5 years is pretty long, but when you have to also get data from your supply chains and your suppliers, your vendors, it's actually a really short time. Now, these are like more than 55% of the global GDP is represented by these countries who have already decided or already taking steps to use a very specific standard in reporting on sustainability finances, right? How is it different from the voluntary realm is that now businesses actually have to share how ESG related topics are impacting their assets, their liabilities, their equity, their income, and their expenses, both as a risk as well as an opportunity. Okay, so you cannot run away from the business operation perspective of ESG anymore. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. And if you do have any questions about whatever I'm covering or whatever that Mr. Samuel and Prof. Chia are covering later, please feel free to jot it into the chat with big title questions so that we'll be able to pick it up at our moderated Q&A session called Ask Me Anything ESG. Okay, so definitely you do not want to miss this trend, not trend actually, this development of the mandatory sustainability reporting. Now, the second development that businesses cannot afford to miss is actually the changes in the cross-border and trade regulation and policies. To give you a great example of how it actually can impact businesses and their supply chains very quickly is this example in Europe, whereby they found there was so much electronic waste being created because tech companies changed their charging points every year or so, every few months or so. And it created just a lot of chargers that were left functional, but couldn't actually go into the new models. So they actually have a directive, meaning it's a law called the Common Charger Directive, whereby only Type C chargers will be allowed into the European market from December 2024. It covers all these items, as you can see here. And in 2026, they're also going to apply that to laptops as well. And then last month, we also saw that another law came about being adopted in the European market, whereby, especially this one, they were talking about textiles. So if any of you are involved with fast fashion or textile industry, then this is going to be something that may hit your clients pretty soon, or even your business directly, because you have to cover the costs of collecting, sorting, and recycling all the waste textiles. So it's not only clothes that people throw away, it's also clothes that haven't been sold or damaged in the process of being, getting to the consumer, returns, etc., etc., etc. So we're starting to see a lot more sort of trade-related, cross-border related developments happening in the ESG space as well. Another one that influences countries that have a lot of exports. So if your business is involved with exports, then cross-border adjustment mechanism is already beginning to hit you all, whether you realize it or not, because it requires you to actually disclose how much carbon emissions is already trapped in your product when it enters the European market, and therefore you need to pay almost a carbon tax for those emissions. And what's amazing is that the tax amount changes day to day, depending on the European Union's own carbon price, which is fluctuating. Okay, so if you're export-oriented countries, this is definitely one that you cannot afford to miss. And last but not least, we're also seeing green taxonomy becoming something that is increasingly pursued. We see it started with the European Union as well as China, but then last year we actually saw Singapore join into that game to create a multi-jurisdiction common ground taxonomy, which means that when finances are being moved between countries for sustainability related businesses or projects, they would now have a common sort of categorization to make it easier and faster for those finances to be provided. Okay, so this is definitely something that is growing a lot. This cross-border movement, trade arrangements, and trade policies are also happening. Now, the third one that the businesses definitely cannot miss is actually the crackdown on greenwashing and in the increase in ESG litigation. For those of you who are not familiar with the word of litigation, in simple layman terms, it means that people can get sued, right? And what's interesting is this article actually came out to say greenwashing is actually the new gold mine for litigators. So if you have any friends, or if maybe your business is involved with lawyers, if you are a lawyer, this is probably a good opportunity for you to get in and earn some good money there. Because when we're looking at the cases that's happening globally, a lot of people say like, oh, my country doesn't have any greenwashing law and therefore I'm safe. That is not true. That is not true. The global cases are showing us that countries are using advertising laws, market authorities, consumer protection laws, financial conduct authorities, trademark laws, and even competition authorities to really crack down on that misrepresentation in the environmental social governance space. Just to give you an example, and a lot of people think China is not doing much, but this actually happened in China, whereby if you have any trademarks that have green, organic, natural, nature, these are actually considered to be violation of trademark law unless you have the evidence to show that you have actually achieved these within your products or services, because it's based on the ground of being deceptive in nature and misleading to the public. Okay, now globally, the statistics are starting to show that the amount of cases filed between 2015 and now has grown by 70%. This is the amount of different countries where you're actually seeing ESG cases being raised. It's not just in Europe. It's not just in Americas. There's actually a good distribution across the world, and it's growing. And really interestingly, last year, we actually saw that human rights law actually was something that could be used to sue national governments over the climate, not doing enough. We also saw the Global World Court actually saying countries can sue each other over climate change. and they have a legal obligation to protect the climate. And on top of that, there was this plastics pollution international treaty that was being negotiated last year to actually curb all the plastic pollution and actually force manufacturers to not use certain type of toxic chemicals that's leaking into our world and into our health through plastics. We also saw that strategic litigation is something that philanthropists are looking to invest in now, because they believe that whatever good impact they were trying to achieve is not happening fast enough. And in order to force more action, they would actually go and pay lawyers to go and sue people and sue governments and sue businesses. Okay, now all of that is actually happening with this backdrop that the physical environment is actually having disruptions, right? This is number 4, sorry for the typo. Now, we actually know we've already passed 1.55 degrees Celsius whole Earth increase. Now, if that were a human body, we would be having fever already, okay? And the damages that's going to be costing the world is actually 38 trillion. 38 trillion. Right? So if we look at the effects, 1.55 is sort of here. I think if we are in the African zone, this means that the amount of species in risking extinction has just grown by 10%, and there's going to be more additional 350 to 600 million people actually having water stress. If we're in Asia, we already saw that wheat and maize has already had decreased in yields. There's going to be a decrease in yields for rice coming very soon, which means a lot of staple food is going to be going into risk. And also coastal flooding and water stress is also something that is already hitting us now. Okay, I'm sure a lot of things in the news is something you can see is getting increasingly associated to climate change. But at the end of the day, whatever that I shared with you, it comes to business, right? News is just news. News will come and go. And part of it stirs up our emotions. And at that time, we're like, oh my gosh, I have to do something. By the end of the day, when we're looking at whether this is a business threat or business advantage, we need to understand what this news means to our business. Now, I hope from what I shared just now, there's going to be 2 things you get. The threat is very clear. If you don't get into ESG, your business is dead. But if you get in and then do it simply without any intention or just picking what's easy, your business is dead as well. Because it's not only about compliance. You also have to look at advantage from cash flow, advantage from competition, and advantage in terms of access to capital. And as suppliers and vendors, which is the space that we work in, I think we play a very interesting view, because not only do we have to understand how those news on sustainability, ESG developments affect our own business, it also needs to be how we're affecting our clients' business. Because when we can understand that, we can ask ourselves, are we a creator of risk to my client? Or are we an enabler of opportunity for the client? And that's when we're actually talking about, is the ESG a business threat or is it a business advantage? Because when you got those questions clear in your mind, that's when you can do something about it. And that's exactly why in the mandatory sustainability reporting, it's no longer talking about just the risk and the opportunity. What companies need to report is how those risks and opportunities are having an impact to the business, which is what does it mean for the business, but also how will management deal with this risk and the opportunities. And truth be told, most companies wouldn't know. They have to rely on the suppliers and vendors to really be growing those opportunities and mitigating those risks. So with that, thanks very much for giving me some part of your time to contribute to this discussion. I hope this leaves you with a lot of things to consider, and I'm looking forward to your questions during the Q&A session. But what I like to do now is to actually do the moderated panel sharing about making ESG work for businesses. And I wanted to really start off first with our first MOU partner, which is Greenlyf Foundation. I'll bring on Mr. Samuel to maybe share with you what they are doing in Uganda and how this partnership could further accelerate their pursuits. So, Mr. Samuel, I'll stop sharing now, and you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Regine, for such a profound discussion and conversation. Maybe to go back to what is Greenlyf, I am going to use a bit of just the background, which can be actually accessed on our website, which should be a good way for us to do the presentation quickly. So Greenlyf Foundation is actually a non-profit registered organization that is based in Uganda. And our priority areas are really three key areas. We do a lot of climate capacity building, and our niche has been the young professionals and university students who we think they are actually the future. And as ESG is moving towards becoming more legal, requiring litigation, for us, we believe in building the capacity of the future leaders, especially the business leaders and people in governance that are actually going to need to drive ESG and a clean, sustainable planet for all of us. So our focus on climate capacity building goes beyond just looking at mitigation now and adaptation, but also looking at how do we ensure that the business work that the young people are coming up, the innovations that they are bringing on board are actually aligned to the requirements of sustainability of the environment and the planet where we live. The second thing, we do advocacy. For us, we believe that anything to be driven at scale and to change the way of doing things, you need to actually make people aware. And that's the reason as to why we feel like the partnership with CBASS to drive ESG training within Uganda and among the corporates who actually were former students at one point, all of us, Regine, myself, I have noticed there's Professor Sada is on the call, who is actually a bigger person when it comes to entrepreneurship and business building within Uganda. All the people that we find actually in the business center at one point in time, there were students, either dropouts who have not graduated through university, or they have gone to tertiary institutions, or they have actually graduated, or they are still continuing to study. So when we talk about engaging with young people, we actually very cognizant that almost 70% of our population are still in school within Uganda. You look at a country where you have over 70% of the people below 35 years. And when you have a country like that, the focus is actually going to, when you think of a corporate, think about a person who is between 26 years to 50 years. But majority, think about a person who is between 23 years to maybe around 35. That's the dominant number that you're going to find in offices. And these are people who still have a future to actually drive sustainability. So we advocate to such a group of people who we feel will be able to drive the change that we harness and we desire in the coming 5 to 10 years. Lastly, we advocate and we support innovation for green jobs. And I think this is now the heartbeat of ESG. When you think about circular economy, you're thinking of reusing what would be determined as waste to actually create a new opportunity of businesses, which we are calling green jobs. But also thinking about people who have already gone into business and they are doing business as usual. Can they be able to start thinking, how do I green my operations? How do I green the current business that is already running without starting a new one that actually is in the circular economy? For example, if you're an accountant, traditionally, we've known that in accounting, for you to account for expenditures, you need to print a whole pile of papers to take to every person in the office and they keep signing. What about thinking about it as using an A4 format paper of a Microsoft and you have an automated pen that actually requires the boss or your supervisor to sign with their automated pen, and you keep a PDF of that into the system that you can be able to track. That means such an accountant is actually becoming more environmentally aware. that the product called paper that has been traditionally known as a better safety mechanism on the archive to keep key accounting documents can actually be also done using a Google folder where you actually keep all these PDFs. And if an audit comes up, you can be able to actually extract these different forms that have been signed with a pen, which not the usual pen of plastic, and ink that needs to be moved up with or need to be purchased in every office to ensure that things are done with a physical pen. Now you're using actually an automated ink, and you're able to circulate and build systems that actually can replace what we could have had as the business as usual accounting mechanism of files, box files, and everything. So when we think about that as Greenlyf, we see an opportunity because we want actually now to drive more beyond now looking at university students. We're entering into the corporate environment, and we want to say, can we now build their capacity? And this partnership is going to be an opportunity for us to reach out to the people we serve with actually the capacity building that we're talking about. It's going to be also an opportunity for us to drive climate advocacy, because why do we have even to do ESG beyond just business, making money? We need actually to think about the planet as the only home that we have. And if we do not take care of it, if our businesses are not able to green the environment where we live, then most likely the 1.5 degrees Celsius beyond target, if we exceed up to 2, maybe even the businesses that we harness, the businesses we love, we may not be able to sustain them. And I want to take an example. For 2020, we had COVID, but also at the same time, Uganda was graciously blessed with a lot of rain. And when we got a lot of rain, that means there was food in the homes, but actually there was also a shocker for people who owned the beaches near the water bodies. So people were having beaches and beach houses along the shores of Lake Victoria, who had thought that by filling a lot of soil to the shores of Lake Victoria and maybe the swamps surrounding it, you can actually live in a better scraper, a better house. You can have a lake view just at your step door. Actually, they had an opportunity to swim within the water in their own houses. And up to date, majority of those beaches have never come back to where they used to be. So what does that mean? If we only imagine doing business without the environmental sustainability, without thinking about society, without being compliant to the governance systems, then we are actually doing a disadvantage to our own selves. But also the last one is innovation for green jobs. And when we talk about innovation for green jobs, what we are actually thinking about is beyond just being compliant, beyond just doing ESG as a region, how can you turn ESG as a business opportunity? And that's actually where the innovation for green jobs is being talked about. Can we see we have a lot of banana stems in Uganda? Ugandans eat a lot of banana. And apart from picking a banana fruit, the rest of the banana plant is a waste in Uganda. Now, the question is, have we looked at, as banana growers, have they looked at the opportunity that actually exists with the banana flower, which is commonly known as empumumpu in actually our local language? Have we thought about how can we be able to utilize the banana stem just beyond animal feeding, but maybe into textile? How do we ensure that people are able to harness all the opportunity that exists from one plant and employ many young people, but also add an income to the household and in the pockets of business people? So I think this is going to be an opportunity where we can now start to tease out new innovations, but also finding opportunity of, okay, how do we then report about our impact to the environment? How do we ensure that beyond just getting the compliance window, can we be able to earn a carbon credit on top of what we are actually doing in terms of avoiding these banana stems from rotting and actually turning them into useful material. So I am looking forward. I know many Ugandans who are on this call, they're actually fascinated that this is an opportunity that is coming to their way. And I'm very confident that we are going to have to see many people coming on board, because Greenlyf has built a brand of actually professionalism and understanding what we talk about. What we need only to nurture is how do we use partnerships like CBASS and people in the diaspora, people in the international community, to actually drive local solutions and make our people more competent and able to drive actions. So I look forward to the engagement, I look forward to the partnership, and I look forward to empowering many young people, but also empowering the business community in Uganda with the right information, with the right certification, and we will be able to drive action. Looking forward to the discussion. Thank you, Regine.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samuel. I really love the part where you talked about, it's not just about, doing it for the environment. Yes, the environment is important because it is the only home that we live in. It's this physical space that we exist in, right? And that we can live our day-to-day lives. But at the same time, we can't sort of forget that there are livelihoods at stake. And if people are worried about where they're going to get their next meals, or where their housing is going to be, or where their water is going to come from, or how they're going to feed their kids or send them to school, etc., then at the end of the day, sustainability will still be a nice to have. So what we really need to do is how to actually bring sustainability into impacting livelihoods, so that people have a way forward of, as every time they go for work or when they are doing something, not only is it something that can satisfy the monetary needs that they have, but also at the same time create a much better environment and society for us to continue existing in. So thanks, Mr. Samuel, for raising that point. I really love that. Right, so let's move on to probably hearing from Prof. Chia, who then would like to share what ESGAM has been doing in Malaysia, and also how they see this partnership as something that could help drive this further forward. So, Prof. Chia?
Yeah, okay. So I found Mr. Samuel's presentation very interesting, very lively. This is very much on the community, if I may say correctly, Mr. Samuel. And for us, for ESG Association Malaysia, so we are very much coming from the business perspective. Yeah. Okay, next. We started this association in 2022. Yeah. And it's an NGO, it's non-government, non-profit. Actually, it's formed by a group of volunteers. And important is a like-minded professionals from businesses, academic, financial, legal, etc. All of us came together with one objective here, to support Malaysia towards achieving the sustainability transition plan. It's very much on the business. We are coming from the business point of view first. So our vision, we wish to championing a sustainable future for our nation and community, and mission to promote a sustainable, equitable, and vibrant ESG ecosystem that connects and empower all stakeholders, foster collaboration, and drive positive change towards a better future for all. Yeah, and we wish to aspire to be the voice of industry, by the industry, for the industry, especially for the underserved SME, small, medium enterprise, which contribute about 40% of Malaysia's GDP. So I can see the dual angle. What Mr. Samuel have done in Uganda is eye-opener. It's a lot of community works, as also for the teenager and to protect the nature. And as ESGAM, we want to be the catalyst, facilitator, promoter, and enabler for ESG adoption and development in Malaysia, delivering Sustainable Goal 17, call to action plan adopted by the UN. So we are very much coming, that's how we chart our path, and very much to secure our SME first. Yeah, so business first. And we believe if we did it right, and the planet or the nature will get protected. Okay, next. And this is our exco. Yeah, myself and All of us are voluntary. None of us get paid. And we have quite a mixture. And together in the call, Mr. Eric Chong, he will be lead us to share the part 2 of our presentation. And we have been, as I say, we started 3 years ago. We realized as a business to business community, we are lacking of a real expert. A lot of SMEs are looking high and low to seek for help and so on. I mean, sometimes they are helpless, especially quite numbers of SMEs which I spoke to, some of our members. We are encouraging them to join us as a member so that how we can pursue these ESG topics for the country. Next. And this is our council member. We have our, like Zahid, we have a pretty good mix of whether it's a female or male, whether it's from the big corporate, and also we are coming from SME. And we also have advisors, honorary advisor. These are the highly sought after. Some of them are in the government agency. Some of them are sitting in the international board. For example, Dr. C. Kelly, he's first Malaysian CEO listed in NASDAQ. And Dr. Chin is the president of SME Association. Dr. Wong is independent non-executive director for 2 to 3 listed company in Japan. And Professor Sharin, she's chair lady for Malaysia Green Tech Council, and so on and so forth. Yeah, of course, our dear secretariat, Caroline and Rasana, together with us. Okay, next. And the way we work, we structure it in the committee level. This is what we believe. In order to expand, to promote the awareness, our awareness is very much on the business awareness. I think just how Li Jin make a solid presentation about the global mandatory, and also in country, how Malaysia as a country, how Malaysia can reach net zero by 2050. Yeah, Malaysia have formed quite numbers of the policy. Of course, one of the latest policy, National Sustainability Reporting Framework. And this is very much how to position, how to bring the enterprise and the SME towards the global compliances. Yeah, we have academy, mainly on the training, research. We have Strategy Alliance, in which Eric also chair of the research, and Akhil Gupta, and then you can see this gentleman, Eric, appear again as a sponsorship. And I realized just now, Mr. Samuel, you shared your website. There's something is catch my eye. You know what? Donate now. That's something very interesting. Something we can learn. And Tony and Adrian. Next. And since 2000, our formation 2022, our real activity, and we get recognized by the industry, by the government, by the academy from January 2023. Yeah, we have going to an external internal events, whether it's a keynote speech, whether it's a panelist, whether it's a moderator, and a media interview, and MOU. And in fact, Li Jin, this with CBASS will be our 14 MOU, correct, Razana? And we went to a training, we went to some brainstorming session, and our membership as of today is 267. We welcome all the corporate, and also more the merit about SME to join us. And our criteria when you join us as a ESG association member, you need not to know ESG. So we always talk about the famous word we use here. You can join us as a 0, then we will move you to become 1. That means 0 to 1. So this is what we are encouraging. Next. And besides this, the other our member, we have a government agency. Maybe for Li Jin, this is the first time you look at this also. we have a lot of, we also have some advisory or training company. And very soon we will put the CBASS as one of our strategic partner as well. Yeah, okay. Yeah, next. This is our member is growing. Next. And these are our members, where they are. We also categorize them: transport, telco, service provider, marketing. You see the most, of course, is from the IT side, and construction side also we have. Yeah, the list is growing. Next. Yeah. And this is some photo. We also talk to the government agency. I think I'm not sure about the motion in Uganda, and also Lee Jin, you are in the London and regional global. For us, we believe about the ecosystem building, and also about partnership. Yeah. So the reason why we going to this event and so on, so that number one, we want to position who we are. Number two, we want to know the other party what they are doing. Number three, after we get to know each other, whereby we will formulate the approach or strategic, whether tactical or strategic collaboration. Yeah, that's why we partner with university. You see the center part is a Syrian. Syrian is a Malaysia. Lee Jin, you should know those are Malaysian. Is a very well known. Okay. And also you look at it. We also go to TV, podcast. We also generate our podcast as well. And we believe digital media, beside this media, we also believe to reach out to more audiences, and whereby we also started our own podcast. Next. This is in 2023. Next will be 2024. For your information, this is not my full-time job. Yeah. So, however, because of the passion, I think just how Samuel or Lee Jin mentioned about, I think it's for our next generation. For my time, you know, I'm coming to 60s, yeah, and important what sort of legacy we want to leave behind us. That's why we put a lot of effort and to really to promote, to create the awareness to the SMEs, to the business community, whereby when the business community start to aware, start to act, and the community will come together forward. Next. Then 2025, in action, you can see, and later you can see the left side, on your left side, the ESGAM X I40 AI platform. And later, Mr. Eric Chong will bring you to, we believe this will be one of the many solutions. Our many solutions, this will be one of the solutions whereby we manage to get the investor or funder to create this digital AI power platform. And later, Mr. Eric will bring us into more details. And these are all the sessions that I went to. By the way, Malaysia, Bursa Malaysia is making a lot of mandatory requirement for the listed call. However, for SMEs, it's still like a no man's land. Just for your information, we have about 1.2 million SMEs here, and many of them will export to Europe and US and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Next. So this is one of the slides we always promote and we always encourage. Why we want to do a movement or motion or move the needles from the association perspective. Number one, of course, enhance credibility. Yeah. So we have in Malaysia, we have quite numbers of local branded, local manufacturer, local fashion, and so on. They started to believe in this ESG, whereby the credibility by associating with ESG. Of course, number two, build trust. As a ESG member logo, we strongly, or we are 100% discourage greenwashing. I think Lee Jin mentioned about the greenwashing just now. And we even set up a special led by a professional to ensuring that our solution provider and so on, they are not going to the greenwashing. And access new market, yeah. So, and member only special, and this is what we do, awareness and so on. And certainly, Eric will bring you more. Next, I'm going to finish here. So this will be our membership, our linking. Let's connect. We are open. We are open to all the positive encouragement. We are also welcome those suggestions that can make us doing our continuous improvement. Yeah, I will stop here. I'll hand over to Eric. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Okay, Eric, over to you.
Yeah, okay. So just to continue on from what Prof. Chia mentioned as an intro to the association. So one of the key initiatives that we felt that we need to launch to help the SME essentially is to digitize the whole process to make it a lot more seamless and more accessible for the SMEs. So next slide. Next slide. Yeah, so as a background, right? Malaysia's ambition is to be carbon neutral by 2050, right? And 2027 is where the carbon tax is going to be implemented in Malaysia. Some say it's going to be 2026, but we think it's going to be 2027 because the policies are still being drafted, right? SMEs obviously accounts for 40% of Malaysia's GDP. I think it's the same everywhere in the world. In terms of number of businesses, it's about SME accounts for 96% of total businesses in Malaysia. Okay, so it's huge. So businesses are under tremendous pressure this year, especially this year for Malaysia, because there's a sales and service tax that was implemented. There is the e-invoicing that was implemented. Minimum pay wage also implemented. Inflation has gone up, so rentals have gone up. So SMEs are obviously struggling from a cost perspective, and then for them to get on board to be ESG ready is going to be a big challenge. So the more reason why we're here to help them. What's scary also is that in 2023, less than 2% of SMEs have any form of ESG reporting. So that's not good. Next slide. So Malaysia's SMEs are at risk. I think it's the same everywhere, right? Not just Malaysia, right? Because of Scope 3. Scope 3 is supposedly is implemented in 2025 this year, right? So any SMEs who are not ESG ready will be removed from the global supply chain, which means that MNCs will stop supply from the SMEs, right, who are not ready. So that poses a big issue, obviously, for the country and for the SMEs themselves, right? And what Li Jing mentioned, right? You're not in it, you're dead, right? So this is really that word, right, that you mentioned. Next slide. So SMEs will obviously need, like I mentioned just now, a very simplified, very seamless, very seamless accessibility to all these solutions to get on the journey, right? For Malaysia, what is unique is that there are about 20 frameworks in Malaysia. So imagine SMEs struggling to go through every single framework and to execute based on the requirement, right? So a major issue there, right? Next. So I think it's the same everywhere. I mentioned just now. SMEs will ask typically these questions, right? Where do I start? How do I start? When do I start? Who do I work with? Who can I trust? Right? Because there's obviously a big challenge in terms of starting, and there's a cost base involved as well. So when we see all this, we decided that the best way is to launch a one window solution, right? And in this day and age of AI and data and digital tools, we decided to build one window platform, which is an AI-powered digital ESG platform. And within the platform, next slide, right? Next slide. So within the platform, we build 7 values in terms of from a framework perspective. Actually, there are nine values, but it's 7. I'll explain why 9 later. So if we see this value, it is actually a journey that we're trying to bring the SMEs through, starting with learning what is ESG, why it's relevant, why it's important for the SMEs to get on board, and what is required for each different sectors, right? So this is the first part of the journey. Second part is once they understand that, then they get into assessment. They have to do a self-diagnostic in terms of where they are versus where they need to be. Once they have done that, then they will have to go and look for solutions under environmental, social, and governance. Okay, so that's why under solutions there are three separate value pillars. Yeah. So once they've implemented, then they will have to report. Right. The type of report is important as well, and once they've reported, then they need to be audited in terms of what they've executed to ensure that there's no greenwashing. Okay. And once they pass the audit, then that's where they get accredited that they are actually ESG ready. So then they'll remain in the supply chain. All right. Now on top of that, we've also placed within the platform green financing from the various financial institutions in Malaysia, plus also government grants. So the SMEs, once they've executed what they're supposed to execute, they can actually submit the grants, right? They can redeem the grants. Okay. Now, carbon credit will come a bit later as the Malaysian government continue to set up the policy around carbon credit, but that will come later. But in essence, it is a journey that we try to provide to the SMEs. Next slide. So how we put all these 7 pillars together is through I40, our partner. I40 already have an existing platform. They provide the platform to government agencies, to MNCs in Malaysia. So we work with I40. I40 is sponsoring the platform. The platform is called ESGAM Connect, right? So everything that I've described, the 7 values in the framework, is embedded in the platform. But what's also in the platform are 2 other things. One is a marketplace, so which means that SMEs, once they log onto the platform, they can search, they can view, and then they can buy straight away, right? So that's one. The other second part is Alia is an AI, our AI assistant, right? So you can log on to the platform. You can ask any questions of Alia, and Alia will try to answer the questions that you ask them. So that's what we've built for the platform. Okay, and with this, we hope that you will be able to serve the SME community, right? So that's it, right? It's a very quick view in terms of what we're trying to do for the business community in Malaysia.
All right, thanks very much, Mr. Eric, for giving us that overview of ESGAM Connect. And I know there's like a lot of different aspects to ESGAM Connect that we can continue to explore. And it would be great to drop the sort of link inside the chat, so then we would be able to direct more people to actually visit and explore it. At the same time, also, for those of you who are watching the recording, it is in the description of this recording. So please go and explore these various resources of our MOU partners. And with that, thanks very much for sharing actually what's actually happening at ESGAM. I think what is amazing is that Circular Business Association, we sit in, although we're registered in Malaysia, we essentially sit in that sort of global realm. we truly want to work with more local partners that become stronger and can provide that sort of local connection to people so that we can continue focusing on actually pulling together the ecosystem at the sort of global scene. So maybe just allow me to quickly share before we do a quick photo taking to commemorate this MOU. Whereby I would like to share a bit about what Circular Business Association is doing, and therefore how this partnership is actually really coming together between Greenlyf and ESGAM, because they are very strong sort of local partners in their respective zones, so that we can actually reach more together. So just allow me to quickly share my screen. Yeah. So Circular Business Association, we are an ecosystem builder. So we're definitely on there with Prof. Chia. That ecosystem building work is so necessary. We are working towards solving the climate crisis, not so much of just drawing together businesses who are aware that we need to do something in ESG or really working with just the youth. We're actually working a lot with solution providers. So we bring in the technical expertise, the know-how, the technologies to actually get implementation done. Because essentially what Circular Business Association represents is a community that leads the implementation of a profitable circular economy. As they rightly put, the pain is that there's so many different solution providers out there that even though nations, economic regions, financial institutions, companies, the big companies, the big players, even if they have climate commitments and sustainability commitments, apart from SMEs sort of being left hung there alone, there's also a lot of confusion at the other end because they hardly know how to pull together these different providers that each have an incomplete offering, and it makes it really costly to manage and integrate between the providers so that they can actually transition profitably into ESG. So it really doesn't make much sense for big boys to change despite all the regulatory pressures if the supply chain, the SMEs, are not ready to meet them halfway. So the question always comes back to who can actually solve the problems on the ground and actually get implementation executed. So what we do at Circular Business Association is that we work on answering the who. We actually are working towards filling that implementation gap with a profit-driven circular economy ecosystem. And that means not only working with those in the manufacturing realm, but also, or even those in recovery and repurposing. A lot of people think circular economy is just about recycling. It's not. It's much deeper than that. We also work with people with raw materials, quality and compliance, the distributors, the service providers, the end users and fan base themselves, as well as the regulators, technology providers, logistics and delivery, product designers, talents across business functions, be they lawyers or accountants or brand management companies, social media campaigners, etc., as well as investors, to actually bring together this profit-driven circular economy ecosystem. We're very happy to share that within our community, we have technology solution providers that have been featured in Climate Tech 100 lists for their breakthrough technologies in urban spaces, in energy, in packaging, etc., as well as providing infrastructure that can build trust and sort of flows within cities and economies. We've also had our community in the finance sector getting recognized, as well as getting very much involved in the sort of determining what the new sort of breed of circular businesses standards should be looking like through Circular Economy Awards. Now, why circular economy is something that our association is really unique in pulling forward as an approach to achieving ESG is because there are many ways that the society is pursuing it. And the way that we have not thought about the environment or the society and just really a take, make, throw away culture is what we call the linear economy, right? There's no thought, no intention, just get it produced first, and then we'll try and deal with the problems that emerge. The recycling economy, therefore, is a little bit of an improvement because we're talking about trying to have less bad. We're trying to see how to make things a bit better. But the thing is that it still requires the disease to continue existing, and all we're doing is just treating the symptom. We're not actually trying to solve the cause of the issue. A good example is, again, electronic waste, e-waste. Many governments, you will see, actually talk about trying to solve the e-waste problem because it's piling up in our landfills, causing fires, leaking toxins into our waters and our soil, causing health issues, etc. Unfortunately, e-waste is just the symptom. It's actually a symptom of the disease of how we treat and use and move our electronics and electrical assets in the economy. Okay, so when we look into the circular economy thinking, we're really trying to say, how can we solve things right from the start? From designing, from the design of the product, from the material choices, from the way that it's manufactured, from the way that's even brought to customers, from the way it delivers performance, from the way that's meant to come back, right? How do we make all those processes much more planned, intentional, and therefore able to milk out the value that remains in those assets in the economy? The challenge for us, though, which is also the goal of our association at Circular Business Association, is how can we rapidly replace out all linear economy products with circular economy products in the next 4 to 5 years. I'm very happy that ESGAM Connect is existing as an infrastructure that could facilitate us in achieving that goal. Now, we actually empower through 3 main things. Through community, whereby we are building that global network. We believe that climate change, ESG, is a global related issue, and there's no single market that actually has the full suite of suppliers that can solve things in totality. So we really bridge together various solution providers, be it in the figure it out realm, the do it realm, learn it realm, measure it realm, or the tell it realm, so that we can actually accelerate the pursuits that each of our businesses are going for. We believe that a rising tide raises all boats. So it's all about how to mutually benefit each other. Apart from that, we empower through voice. It is in consult, represent, and advocacy. We don't just do pure advocacy to raise awareness, because we know there are lots of great partners out there who do a wonderful job in their respective realms to raise that type of awareness. The advocacy that we really put forward is advocacy of implementation. So what are the things that need to actually be put in place, be it standards, be it guidelines, be it technologies, be it policies, be it cross-border movement, be it digital product passports, etc., in order to make it happen, right? So Circular Business Association, we bring in the know-how, we bring in the network and the specialty to actually get the job done. And that's where we really see the partnership with Greenlyf, as well as with ESGAM, really bringing together our strengths and leverage on each other's networks. Apart from that, we also empower through training, which is to train, coach, and empower. As Mr. Eric and also Mr. Samuel mentioned, there are a lot of people out there who want to do the right thing, but very often they are kind of lost where to start, what to do, and things like that. And we really work on the first part of readiness. As Gam is saying, that bringing people from 0 to 1, we really want people to even start from the 0 to 0.5 and just really get them moving in that. So the ESG-ready certification program that Circular Business Association puts forward is split into 2 levels. And how we're different is that we purposely actually trim down all that material and content out there so that it is focused on what SMEs need to focus on first, right? How to actually understand the relationship they have with ESG, sustainability topics, how that's going to impact their business, how their business impacts their clients, how all together this impacts the outcomes in ESG. Because that is where the risk and the opportunities actually materialize, become real. And also, secondly, we're different in the sense that we're looking at root cause. We're not looking at greenwashing just by avoiding this, avoiding that. We're actually saying, how can we do better right from the start, because we intentionally planned for that, right? And how do we actually plan for profitability to actually be part of all your ESG efforts and investments? Because if you're pursuing ESG and just spending a lot of money on the consultants, on the tech, but you have no idea how to actually bring it back into your business, then your business is going to face financial difficulty. And when it faces financial difficulty, the impact that you represent is going to disappear eventually. And we don't want to do that, especially with so much effort that you put in to the business that you love. We want to make sure that it's a profitable participation in the ESG realm. And last but not least, we are having the ecosystem, whereby once you finish the training, this is literally so that we can have more suppliers and vendors that can speak the same lingo, can understand each other, are willing to explore how their capacities, technical abilities can actually solve each other's gaps and actually move everyone forward together. So these are just some testimonials of people who have actually joined our ESG-ready certification program. This person in particular was talking about how yesterday he couldn't understand what these people were talking about at the board meeting, and now he's actually feel more empowered to engage in those conversations and see how their business could actually help them solve the problems they're facing. It also brought about clarity. Initially, people just thought it's a charity thing, it's a compliance thing, but now after being part of the ESG program, they actually see how they could actually benefit as business and also deliver performance that is much better to their customers. We also actually saw shifts in terms of how people understood ESG with more clarity. If you're trying to pursue it on your own, it does feel like a tsunami is going to crash you. And very often our participants say they open the courses or they open the YouTube videos or Google articles, and within 2 seconds, they close it again because it's just too much. So we are there to actually help you clarify a lot of jargons, help you understand the standards, the IFRS standards that is being used by majority of the mandatory sustainability reporting countries, and also to help you figure out what data would be most important for you to back up the claims that you're making to your clients so that they can do their ESG reporting much better and hence move you into a preferred vendor and supplier status. So this is just great in terms of covering blind spots, and I really encourage you all to explore further with our association. We are the Circular Ecosystem Builder for Empowered Implementation. You can see more at our website, circularbusinessassociation.org. And I'm really happy actually to now have like a commemorative part of this event, which is to really commemorate this MOU partnerships that we are having with ESGAM as well as with Greenlyf Foundation. We're very happy to step into Africa for the first time and grow our network there and contribute to the development of the human capacity and human capital there. Malaysia has always been our stronghold. I am Malaysian, and so it's great to actually see a really strong local partner with the corporate networks that can drive more influence at a faster scale and pace with ESGAM. Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel and Mr. Eric and Prof. Chia as well for this commemorative event of between Greenlyf Foundation and CBASS, as well as between ESGAM and CBASS as well. Okay, right. So now that we've done the photo taking, we finally reached the Q&A session. So thank you very much for everyone in the audience who's been really patient with us. And I'd really love to actually hear any questions that you may have. If you have been typing it into the chat, then we'll be trying to sort of do it live. If not, you can also raise your hand and we will be able to address any questions you may have. Okay, so let's have a look. Right. Maybe while people are warming up to ask questions, I think I'd like to ask Mr. Samuel, Mr. Eric, and Prof. Chia, what would be some key takeaways or a golden nugget that popped up for you from this particular discussion so far?
Thank you. I think let me be the first one.
Yeah, go ahead. it
was kind of an opportunity to actually do a shorter presentation and a lot of work coming from Regine and Professor. We noticed that actually as a Ugandan country, we have a big opportunity ahead of us. ESG is not a common thing. I notice you already have associations bringing together ESG. Ours is there, but it's so much around the banking sector. So this is going to be an opportunity, and I've seen the key highlight that I see here is actually the opportunity to certify people to become ESG aware, to become ESG competent, but also most importantly is the issue of the circular economy in a country where there is a lot of waste in terms of from the manufacturing to agriculture to time. There's a lot that actually we can learn from, especially with the ESG being one of those that can help us to implement the circular economy. So we're looking forward to the partnership. We're looking forward to actual collaboration, but most importantly, it's going to be a great opportunity for us to grow this ecosystem greatly. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Samuel. I also believe like ESG actually has a lot of potential to grow even further and to develop even further for a lot of different businesses. But you really need to know what to do about it and how to get. I think if there was a question that we received earlier, it was around this thing of, since SMEs are not actually being forced for the mandatory sustainability reporting, like, does it mean that actually SMEs don't have to get into this ESG thing that soon? Yeah, I think that was a question that somebody actually wrote to us earlier on. I just wanted to ask maybe Mr. Samuel to first go ahead, and then Prof. Chia, what are your thoughts about this question?
Samuel, we take turn. I think it's a valid questions. I think when it comes to human characters, attitude, if it is not compulsory, if it's not mandatory, why should I do? And a lot of people thinking about ESG implementation is a cost burden, right? Yeah. As Eric rightfully mentioned, especially in our country, the sales service tax, the e-invoicing, the overall business landscape are deteriorating. The competition from China, a lot of China coming over here, F&B business get affected, even photography business get affected, renovation job get affected because it's become a price war. So SME is thinking about more on the survivability. So why should I do if I have $1? So should I invest in, let's say 20 cents in ESG, or I will save the 20 cents for any unforeseen circumstances? That's why that it become a very important thought process. For the association, we would like to create the awareness, and we want to come embed this information beside the branding positioning. Why not we think positively? By leveraging on ESG, we might have a better positioning compared to our competitor. I think you should hear this, right? Many years ago, I used to share this analogy. There's two businessmen. They walk into the jungle. Okay, so they heard about the roaring sound from tiger. Then one of the businessmen took up his boot, crochet. Yeah. Then the other businessman say, hey, brother, you cannot outrun the tiger, right? Then the gentleman quickly removed everything from his body, right? I mean the shoes, the bag, and so on. Then you know how he responds? Yes, I cannot outrun the tiger, but I can outrun you, right? So I thought this is a very good analogy. In business, it's talking about survivability. Of course, the purpose, profit, but survivability is very important. Then we also don't fall into, people do, I also follow, right? I also follow. But you must understand your business purpose. Why? That's why the mentality, the mindset for the CEO, for the business owner is very important. Why I want to do? I don't want to do it for the sake of doing. I don't want to do it to differentiate from people for the sake of it. I want to do it how to integrate into my business strategy so that I can enhance my unique selling proposition. I can enhance the client, the buyer view. Yeah, I'm a practitioner of ESG. I care about the earth. I care about the planet. I care about community. I care about social. Beside those CSR and so on. Then this will give a value add to the competitiveness. Yeah. Back to you, Li Jin. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that part of it, that analogy that I can outrun the tiger, but I outrun you. So if you're the one being eaten, is at least
Yes,
I get on with my life,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's something that I think a lot of SMEs that wait and see are going to be caught caught at.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
And when we actually
I can share with you one more story. The
mm,
fourth generation business owner. Wow, one day she came to me. She said, President, I want to learn, I want to know more. Then I said, why? Because her business nature, she's a fourth generation, you know. So I said, your business not really get affected and so on. Then why you want to do so? You know what? She really inspired me and motivate us. Many of us are walking the path of this ESG sustainability. Sometimes we feel lonely, right? We get
yes.
a lot of camouflage. We get a lot of unnecessary complaint. Or you do it for the profit, you do it for the sake of your cleanliness and so on and so forth. Yeah. So then she told me that, President, I want to do it for preparing in advance. Right. So number two, I want to do it because I want to be the trend setter. Because in her business nature, the industry had not really come into the ESG or sustainability. However, because of her pressure on her shoulder, the fourth generation, how could she sustain and even do it better?
Yes.
Right. So by having this kind of right thought process, I think, irregardless whether you are leveraging on a buzzword, but the mentality, how to continue the business to the next generation, build a legacy for the next generation, and by doing good to the planet. I think this is very inspiring.
Yeah, I also like that, when we're talking about ESG, it's also about that legacy building. Because like a lot of people jump into the ESG business, say, oh, I'm doing it good for the planet and that should be it. But when you don't actually factor in the profitability by how you're going to sustain the business beyond yourself for the coming generations to come, then you're sort of missing the point, because whatever efforts you've put in can disappear by the time you fall ill or you don't want to do it anymore, or maybe you pass away or whatever it is. But then that's the second part of the legacy part of it, which is that if we actually were to have these businesses that had a long standings of legacy of making the world a better place, be it from the product that they deliver, how they deliver the product, how people interact with the product, and to fulfill their lives and their dreams, I think that's another layer of legacy that we're talking about, because you're not just raising the awareness of the product, you're actually raising the awareness of the consumer, so-called the user, in terms of their relationship with the world. Yeah. And when they become part of your tribe, part of your the people who buy from you to support you in that cause, they actually have reached another layer of contributing to a wider legacy than whatever it is they themselves could achieve.
Correct.
Yeah, that's amazing. Samuel, anything to add to that?
I think I really agree. It's going to be more, especially in countries where it is not yet mandatory. It's going to be more for businesses to realize where is my, how can it become my competitive advantage? If you waste less within your productions, if you waste less within your production processes, that means you're going to actually demand less of the inputs and maximize more of the output. Now, from just the economic view or point, you're actually going to have an opportunity that you're going to earn more money from the limited resources that actually you're putting into. So I think it's going to be more of what is the incentive. So we need to define, even as we do the training, we need to show businesses what is the incentive for them to have a little bit more an extra cost of production, but maybe how do they get exorbitant, or what you could call maximize the profitability beyond the current stage where they are at when there's no ESG formalities within your way of work. So it must have a business additive to it.
Yeah.
In terms of,
that attitude and mindset, I think, towards opportunity and risk is such an important part of that equation, right? As both Mr. Samuel and Prof. You've mentioned there, because if the attitude is that we're going to sit and wait, then you're essentially becoming sitting ducks. But then if you're going to actually go and proactively learn about it and then harness that opportunity for your advantage, then it's a complete different pathway that you would pursue it. I'm just going to quickly ask around, because I see a few participants. I know we are over time already. There's a few participants who's continued to stay on with us. Perhaps there's something about ESG that you would like to voice out, or share your thoughts about, or ask questions about. I'm just going to pick a few people.
Thank you so much for organizing this call. ESG is a very new approach towards different elements, and me being on the call is me trying to find out more about how it is and how to leverage it as an opportunity. So thank you for organizing the call. I don't have any questions, but I will keep informed from you guys. In any case, there is another training, I'll be glad to attend. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Patience, for that kind words. And yes, there's many there's a lot out there, and the training, I think, of the ESG-ready certification program will be something that will help delve deeper into understanding how your relationship with ESG as a business, what is your risk that is coming from it, where's the opportunity, and also how you can actually get more prepared. So highly welcome you to explore that certification program as well. Right. Professor Sada, is it? Professor Sada? Yes. Hi.
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon to you all.
Good afternoon, Prof.
Yes, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Samuel, for inviting me here. I've learned a lot so far, and this is quite interesting. And I'd like to ask Chin, I guess I've pronounced it well.
Yeah. You can call me Lee Jin as well if you like.
Legend.
Yeah.
I was taking on the shorter route. It seems easy to pronounce Chin.
That's true.
All right. Now, my question, I could have an idea, but I would love to hear from you, Legend. What is the major difference between the triple P and ESG, or economic, social, and environmental? That is from the triple bottom line theory. Yeah, I would love to hear it from you. I'll be happy to hear that exactly from you. Then again, I listened to you on the E-West. Yeah, E-West.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, on the e-waste, yes.
E-West. E-West, is that the same as waste valorization?
Okay. Yeah, good questions. Yep, I'll do my best.
All right. Thank you. Otherwise, thank you very much for this. Please, Samuel, please keep inviting me. I'll be happy to add some knowledge.
Yes, I'll be glad to invite you, Prof,
next
time.
Thank you very much.
Right, thanks for that. So you have two questions there, and the first one was relating to the triple P, which is people, planet, profits, as well as the ESG frameworks. I would like to say that there's a lot of frameworks that's been developed over time. There's lots of different frameworks that's been developed over time. I mean, there's also, even apart from circular economy, even there's also like donut economics, there's ESG, there's SDGs. And I really wanted to come back to this picture here to talk about when you were talking about the people, planet, profits framework. I think that was probably a easy way for people to understand that when they were pursuing their business, they needed to, apart from profits, they would need to consider the people and the planet as well. Okay, so it has a lot of parallels with the not so much the G, but the E part of the pillars, in that, oh, we should actually consider these other aspects, because if we didn't protect this triple bottom line, essentially the foundations of a company to continue operating wouldn't exist. Okay, so if you didn't take care of the planet, then it is about the raw material resources and input materials that you can have for your business to sustain. If you don't take care of the people, then where are you going to get the type of human resources and labor to actually put into the business operations? And therefore, you can't just be looking at the profits part. Now, why I say there's a parallel to that is, obviously you can see in the pillars, the environment part pillar is really talking about the so-called the planet aspect of the 3 Ps. The social pillar is talking about the people aspect of it, and the silent E is actually talking about the economic aspect of it. But the ESG framework, I think, brings in another very important part of it, which is the governance perspective of it. And very often the participants that come to our ESG certification program are quite worried about this G pillar, because it just feels like a lot of documentation, a lot of data that they need to prove themselves, a lot of policies they have to write for their companies, or how they're doing this or doing that, etc. But how we always approach this is that we need to understand first why this governance perspective is so important. And in the most basic way, think of it that without the governance perspective being brought in, every time a company changes its leadership, or the charismatic profile has moved on to something else, then whatever efforts they have put into the E, the S, or the silent E pillar may change. So there's no continuity. Remember, Prof. Chia just now was talking about how do you sustain a certain legacy? How do you sustain between generations? It's because there's some sort of continuity and consistency. And that cannot exist without systems, and it cannot exist without documentation. Right. So therefore, the governance pillar becomes very important to make sure that whatever efforts the businesses put in for the E pillar, the S pillar, or the silent E pillar, that you are actually ensuring there is some degree of continuity and it cannot just simply change, especially because a lot of these efforts have to be sustained over time before you can see a lot more outcome happening. Right. A lot of people say, oh, ESG takes a long time before you see the results. That's not really true if you understand the idea of compounding. It reaches a point where you compound it, so it's like nothing, and then suddenly it'll go boom, right? So that's the power of compounding, and it very much applies to our daily lives as well as the efforts we put into ESG. Another aspect of the G pillar that's very important is about accountability and trust. Because a lot of people out there can go and make all sorts of claims about what they're doing in the environment or the social pillar, or even their economics, their financial statements and things like that. So how do you know it's true, right? How do you know it's true? So that's why the ESG framework therefore became, like, I think, a much more solid one by adding on that governance pillar to it, to make sure that whatever claims that we are doing, there's some way of tracing, there's some way of checking, there's some way of knowing that these efforts are actually real. And therefore, this increases the trustability of that business. And for investors who are essentially people who have the money and are putting in the money so that the business can actually grow its operations, and therefore the outcomes it represents, can actually have a way to trust the business will be able to give back their money in terms of and any returns, while also doing the right thing that they claim. For example, if let's say you had a pot of money and you decided you wanted to make it grow so that inflation doesn't kill you off and make the money worthless, and then you gave it to somebody who said, "Oh, I got this business that I can actually, help give you returns in the next 3 years." And you say, okay, I'll put the money. The returns look pretty good. And then suddenly you realize that people are knocking at your door and saying, why did you give this person the money? Because you gave this person the money, they are actually holding this factory operation where they are stuffing workers into very small rooms. They hardly have rest. They work 18 hours a day, which is impossible. And people are protesting outside because you were the one who gave people the money. Right. So the whole like sort of like sustainability, financial sustainability reporting, and all of these things actually came about because investors are sort of saying like, you can't really hold me, the one responsible, just because I gave them the money, because there was no information for me to make that so-called judgment call that they were taking my money to do good things or bad things. They were telling me they were doing good things, right? I believed them, and therefore this is what happened. So therefore, the sort of government sort of realm sort of said, okay, since I'm putting pressure on you as the investors to know where your money is actually used for and how it's being, doing the right thing, not doing the right thing, at least not doing the bad thing, while also getting profits and all that. And you say you don't have information. Now let's go and ask people to have to give that information into the public realm, and therefore make it like you cannot say that you don't have information anymore. Okay, so that's how I think the things has evolved from the irresponsible investing, as well as the guidelines through the financial institutions, as well as all the various crackdowns on greenwashing and funds. There were 800 funds in Europe that had to remove the name sustainability, ESG, climate friendly, environmentally friendly, all that, because they couldn't actually prove it. So I think this is where the Triple P and the ESG sort of frameworks actually work together in order to create something more solid in that. And we can start seeing the Sustainable Development Goals by putting together planet, people, profit, peace, and prosperity. Planet, people, prosperity, peace, and partnerships. It adds now even a further layer whereby the operations that we do should actually be promoting peace and be promoting partnerships, because with like the wars that we've seen in Ukraine, as well as in the Gulf, you can see that the development achievements that a society or economy has achieved in the last 15 years can be wiped out in a few months or even a few weeks, right, for the people living there. So I hope that gives some sort of answer, Prof. Sada, that is for you on that note. As for your second question about e-waste and is it the same as waste valorization, they're actually, I won't say they're different things. Now, let's understand the terms first. E-waste refers to electronic waste, okay? It refers to electronic waste. Electronic waste is anything that is involved with electrical appliances. So it could be your personal appliances like laptops, phones, TVs, washing machines, kettles, even your electric cars. It could also be in the medical realm, so all the medical devices that's used in your dentist, in your clinics. It could also be industrial, so all the electronic appliances and electrical appliances in factories, in commercial areas, etc. All of that is considered e-waste. Waste valorization in particular is actually a method of dealing with waste. So it's a technology in the waste management realm, whereby what you're doing is essentially, I won't say burning, but because it's at a much higher temperature and a much higher pressure. So it's not like you light it a fire and then it burns, right? It's actually, you're actually removing the waste at high temperature and high pressure. And therefore that is just a technology or a methodology to solve, so-called solve the waste problem by basically making it back to the atomic level. So the waste sort of disappears in a way because you use so much energy and pressure to break it back down to its atomic levels. So that's why it's two separate things. Can e-waste be valorized? Some parts of it can, some parts of it can't. I would say, not that it can't, is that it might be dangerous to do that. And that's why waste separation and sorting becomes so important, because all the things that we have left to the end to sort is actually really difficult to separate. And if you can't separate it properly, it means certain technologies can't be applied to that waste stack. And that's why there's also this breakdown in terms of waste being accumulated here, or you need a combination of technologies before you can sort out or solve a very mixed waste stream. I hope that answers your question, Prof. Sada.
Yes, thank you very much. Is it possible to receive the slides?
I will double check with the speakers about the slides, but in any case, there is the recording that will be posted on our YouTube channel, Circular Business Association YouTube channel. So you always can revisit the slides and things there as well. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. So I am mindful that we have gone way over time. So I would love to answer more questions if you do have, but at another occasion. If you want, you can always also reach back to us on our email, support@circularbase.org, and do look out for the recording, which will be shared. If you feel that anyone else can benefit from this information, we would highly appreciate it if you can forward on the recording and share it with them. Thank you again to our MOU partners, Greenlyf Foundation from Uganda. Thank you, Mr. Samuel, for joining us today. And also thank you very much for ESGAM, Professor Chia, as well as Eric and Rosanna. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Any final thoughts, Prof. Chia, that you want to say?
Thank you.
Let's do it.
Okay. Right. Thank you, everyone. Take care and have a great evening.